Hello and welcome to the Healthcare Facilities Network. I'm your host, Peter Martin, president of Gosselin Associates. As always, thank you for clicking on this video. This is episode 2 of FM on the Bayou, Critical Access Focus. If you haven't seen the first episode, I will link to it at the conclusion of this episode. My guest, as he was in episode 1, is John Babin. John is the director of the FM for Ochsner Bayou Region in Louisiana. John is accountable for 3 hospitals down in the Bayou region, so he's south of New Orleans. In this particular episode, we talk about the challenges of working in a critical access hospital, the differences from working in a critical access hospital. We also talk about attracting employees when you can't win on salary. John is located in a region of the country where he's competing for folks who work out in the Gulf on oil rigs, and there's a number of different industries down in his region where he can't really compete on salary, so he has to sell other things. And John talks about how he does that both in episode 1 and in this episode, episode 2. John also talks about changing the perception of facilities within the hospital, which I thought was an interesting conversation. So it's a wide-ranging talk. In episode 1, if you missed it, we talked a lot about Hurricane Ida, which hit in 2021, and John talks about managing through that. So I think for this particular episode, we talk a lot about what facilities is up against when trying to attract new employees, and John talks a lot about this. And so if you work at a critical access hospital, if you work in a rural area, there are some unique challenges. And so John speaks to a lot of that in this episode, so I'm really thankful to John for appearing. I would also say if you work in a critical access hospital, if you work in a rural hospital or a community hospital and you want to tell your story on the network, happy to hear from you. So please do reach out to me. Contact information can be found on our YouTube channel. You can send me an email, peter@gosselin-associates.com. So with that, I will stop talking. We will go to episode 2 of FM on the Bayou, Critical Access Focus. Thanks for watching.
We put heads together to try to figure out how to attract younger people into the system, and there's some trainings that Ochsner has recently got on board with at some of the local trade schools and trade colleges here.
Yeah,
and it's mostly in the New Orleans area right now, and hopefully we could branch that into our area. But we went to a local trade school here. There was a career day, and we set up a table, and I was running a little late, and when I got there, my supervisor was already there, and he says, "Let me tell you," he says, "we're gonna have a tough day." I said, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Well, I went talked to all the other tables here, and they just about offering double what we offering on a entry level salary." It's like, man, that's tough, especially for a young person coming out of school looking for, to make, big bucks and, get the fancy toys that they desire, So, yeah, it is a big challenge to get younger people here. And, man, I'm looking for guys in their 40s. To me, that's young.
yeah,
Big guys, we have quite a bit of people in our area that, were at chemical plants and retired, early. And so that a lot of those people are looking for jobs, that can sustain them, throughout. And we've had one guy here recently retired. He turned 66 and went on retirement. And he was here for 5 years. So he came in out of the fabrication yard. We worked for a company for a number of years, and was just looking for a place closer to home where he could, settle in and work for the next 5 or 6 years. And that's what he did. And he was very productive and a very well respected member of the team, and he was sorely missed.
yeah,
But, that's the kind of people, we look for. I'd like, to see people in their 30s or 40s where, they can spend a couple of years and get really ingrained in the operation and really be productive and take the lead. Looking for someone to actually be my successor, it remains to be a challenge.
yeah.
I've got several really, really talented people on my crews. at both hospitals, at all three hospitals here. In fact, I know all the guys at the other one as well. And it's just really difficult to have someone that, you know, knows the mechanical side and, you know, how to operate within the healthcare facility, but then at the same time is willing to put up with the, you know, the challenges of being in leadership. And so finding that person, that is a real challenge.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some people who look at what you do and say, God bless you, but I don't want to do that. I don't, it's all that other stuff that comes with it, right? You get the mechanical part, but then as you just suggested, your phone's on all the time and you're dealing with everybody across that organization.
Yes, exactly.
I know that when we spoke last year, I know you were one of your goals was that succession planning. So it sounds like you're still trying to work through that. Does the organization did they not support, but did they formalize anything like across their organization relative to succession planning?
I wouldn't say really formalized anything, but that is a topic of conversation amongst not only the leaders in the other facilities within the organization, but we have a really good educational program within, you know, Ochsner Health as far as continuing education within the system. So if there's an individual who shows some, you know, some interest in that, we can direct them into some leadership classes, and so the opportunity is there. We do have a couple of guys in our area that are in lead techs that, you know, possibly would be, you know, candidates to get, you know, move up to the next level in leadership. It's just it remains to be a challenge, and I would like to see. I mean, I'm 62 years old, and I would like to, you know, someday be able to retire, you know, 65, 66, something like that. So 5, 6 years, 7 years, maybe. So I'd like to see someone that I can mentor and have them prepared to be in this, you know, in this role and actually be productive. And my motto was, when I took over leadership, I took over in leadership in 2013. And my motto, and I pretty much stick by this, is that I want to leave this place better than I found it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we try to help everyone move up, and we got a great group of guys here who've been willing to mentor everyone that comes in the door, and we've been able to do that. And so now we actually have a program where we're rotating staff between the hospitals to try to help them learn the other facilities as well. So that seems to be working. I'd like to see it progress a little more as we get a few more people on staff, where we can we have the ability to let a guy go, you know, a day or two a week, where he can learn another facility and operate, to where it wouldn't be a total shock if, you know, say, man, now we need you to go next door and you know, do your thing. And so that's where we're working at right now, to work with the staff we have to kind of get them regionalized, because we do have, you know, some staffing already that is regionalized, not in the facility department, but in some of the other clinical departments. And so we work into that. We're not there yet, but that's what we're working on right now.
This is Peter Martin. If you or your organization is interested in advertising or partnering with the Healthcare Facilities Network, including sponsoring content, then please email me using the barcode in the lower right of your screen. From the trades level to the vice president level, from planning, design, construction, project management, compliance, safety, and security, the Healthcare Facilities Network reaches FM people where FM people. I imagine then your staff are you a union shop?
No.
You must not be, yeah. Because that's you know, sometimes that's, everybody forms these systems, but sometimes you have a union shop and a non-union shop, and you're part of that system, and you can't get any of the efficiencies out of that because
Right.
You're not going between hospitals.
Right.
Was it within that program, John? Is staff willing to try? Do they like that, or do they prefer to kind of stay in their hospital? What's been the reception from a staff perspective to that program?
It depends. It's a mixed reception. It depends on the individual. There's some individuals that may not have adequate transportation to travel a longer distance, perhaps, or you know. But for the most part, I think the guys that are doing it are excited about it, and I have interest from a couple of other guys that are willing to do it. They just haven't gotten to do it yet. So we working there. You know, in our area here, in the 3 hospitals that we are in, we're not in a metropolitan area, so we don't particularly have to have individual crafts or specialists. We don't have to have a licensed plumber, or we don't have to have a licensed electrician. We don't have to have, you know, a licensed AC guy. So we kind of do multi-crafts, and we train that way to be able to handle, you know, each and every whatever may come up. But we do use some, you know, it depends on what it is. And if we get into high voltage electricity, then we definitely, you know, we're not doing that. We consulting with a contract or a vendor, and we have a great list of vendors and a group of guys who respond well. And so we treat them good, and they treat us good, and it makes for a good relationship. When we need them, they're here.
Yeah, yeah. What's your distance between your hospitals?
One of them is about 15 or so miles. The other one is about 30 miles.
Okay. When you do the when you have your trades guys at different hospitals, do they spend a day? Do you keep them there for a day or two?
Yes.
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 Okay. So they go there in the morning, and that's where they're working out of.
Yes, yes. We'll send them over to one of the sister hospitals to just to get in and you know, tag along with one of the guys and try to learn the facility, learn it, you know, because I don't know if I'm sure you've heard this before, but there's different nuances at each facility, and every facility, even though we try to, you know, make things the same, they're still different, and they, you know, rate a little differently. And so that's been a bit of a challenge, but it's getting better. Really.
I say this quote frequently on our shows because I do get tired of hearing myself say it, but you say it because it's accurate. We were working for with the University of Nebraska health system, and the chancellor said this quote, and it's very true. He said, "If you've seen one hospital, then you've seen one hospital."
Yeah.
And that's what you're alluded to. I mean, you got different people. It's just, you know, you do the same things, but it's completely, you know, it's just different.
Right.
Just different.
Yeah, you know, we got this little saying with the guys, you know, you could take a nurse and you could put her at hospital A, or you could put them in hospital B or hospital C, and they can do their job. You can't do that with maintenance.
Yeah.
You can't get a maintenance guy to walk in the building and say, okay, here, go fix this. And he's totally lost. You know, that means a lot and says a lot to the fact that, you know, you need to have boots on the ground for a while before you can actually be really productive. Now, if I get a guy over here and he's got a set of skills, and I'll bring him on site and said, okay, here, fix this unit, and he can fix it, and that's productive. But to put him out independently to operate on his own, to take a work order out of the TMS system and go fix it and come back and complete the work order, that's pretty rare.
Yeah, no, it does take time. Have you, since you've started this program where you're, you know, sharing the resources, different hospitals, have you seen, has anything come out of this that has surprised you, you know, that you weren't expecting?
Oh yeah, I've actually learned a lot.
Yeah.
Because I do it, you know, as well, and I've been, you know, at one of the hospitals for about 3 years, and then that AIDET changed that, and so very recently got introduced to the other hospital in our system and in the Bayou region, and so you know, the equipment, the operating system, the people, you know, the way they do things, and it's the culture. I mean, even the culture is a bit different at each hospital. And when I say culture, I mean between the, you know, the guys and the mindset in the maintenance sort of facility group. So that's been a surprise. But it's been good because it's allowed me to grow as well and learn and you know how to do some compromising, but we it's been fun. It's been actually exhilarating. It is overwhelming at times, but at I guess I'm sort of have the landing gear down, you know, to the end of my career and looking to, you know, to just coast in. But a shot in the arm of, you know, it sometimes can be exhilarating, you know, to get these problems and be able to solve a problem that, you know, has been there for quite a while, and putting the right people on the spot. And that was a big learning curve last week when we had an electrical issue that at our other hospital that's been around for a while. And just knowing the guy to call to solve that problem was a big plus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a learning experience for all of us. And we, you know, had an after action meeting and just pointed out to the guys, you see how important it is to know who to call, you know, for what. And I think that is a big plus, because I could have called any number of vendors that would have responded and probably not had as well of a positive result. But just that's part of the learning process as well.
You mentioned that, you know, as we go on, as people become kind of more disconnected from each other, only because even if you just take COVID, you know, the opportunities to disconnect, you have lots of opportunities to disconnect and drift apart. Yet, you know, relationships, especially in facilities management, and the face-to-face are still so critical to, you know, to achieve success. Have you found, is it more difficult to keep the face-to-face, to keep that connectedness? Is it more difficult to do that these days with kind of the overall demands that are on you, or that on anybody? You know, is it, you've got so much to do and get done, and everybody wants it done yesterday, not tomorrow.
Right.
But yet your role is also keeping those personal interactions is so key. Is that more difficult to do now than it used to be?
I guess in a sense it could be, but it depends on if you make that a priority or not. And I say that because the demands on my time definitely got greater over the years with compliance and you know, those things getting more demanding. But if it's a priority to you as far as creating an environment where you actually care, and I tell my guys this all the time, I said probably my biggest fault is I care too much. So I get attached to my people, and I love my people. I you know, I treat them like family, and try to be respectful at all times. And I try to sow that into them and let them know that's a benefit, that we work together. We try to help each other get better. And you know, I agree. I don't have to make myself look good. I need to make my people look good, and indirectly I'll look good. So and that's worked for me, and that's, you know, the way I treat my people. You know, we worked for a guy who was an information hoarder. And so when I stepped into this role, it was green as grass, and you know, it was unfortunate, and I really do not want to do that to anyone else, you know, coming behind me. So that's been my cry to administration and my supervisors for the last 5+ years. It's like, we need to get some people in here that we can train, so that when I'm ready to leave, you know, I'm not handing him the same basket that was handed me. You know, so here, good luck. And that's basically what, you know, was told to me. So we worked hard at trying to create a culture of togetherness, and it's good for engagement. I've always had high engagement scores, and I've got guys who have been over backwards to try to make things happen. You know, it's just, it really creates an environment where we can function together and make us look forward to coming to work.
You know, I just put my glasses on to look at the time. I didn't realize that we're coming up towards the end. Can I ask you two really quick questions? So number one, the information order, did you attempt, like before you were in this role, when you were reporting to this person, did you try to get in that circle? Did you try to push him to say, hey, I need to know this and I need to know that? Did you attempt to get kind of inside that circle and it just didn't work? You weren't allowed in?
Not so much, because I really didn't desire to be in the supervisor's role.
Oh,
That
okay.
that was never really my intent.
Huh.
I got nudged into it, and didn't really think that I was cut out to be in leadership.
Wow.
And I'm just being transparent.
Yeah.
But once I stepped into the role, and even though it was overwhelming for quite a while, it turned out to be the right thing, and it really has been a very positive move for me, and allowed me to use my talents
Yeah.
in a lot greater capacity. And
The
so,
way,
I caution people all the time: do not hoard information, because you're not only hurting others, you're hurting yourself.
yeah, I was gonna say that. I mean, listening to you talk, it sounds like you're a natural. Obviously, you work at it, but that you've been doing it, and that I'm surprised to hear you say. So you didn't want to do. Did you have to get coaxed into it, or did you? They kind of said, "Hey, you want to do it," and you thought about it and say, "No, I'll do it," or did they
Well,
have to push you a bit?
that's kind of a funny chain of events. I went to a conference where it was a learning environmental care, a joint commission conference off site, and I rode with my supervisor, and he broke the news to me that he would be retiring, and that he was thinking that I would be the one to take his place, and I was like, this was a shock to me. And so shortly after that, the COO at the time called me into his office, and broke the news that he wanted me to step up. And of course, I was the younger guy on the team, and the guys, I was definitely not the one with the seniority. And so I knew that would present some challenges. So I agreed to do it, and I did have some pushback from my fellow employees at the time. But after about a week or so, some very really deep conversations, and once they found out that my intent was to make things better and different, and not continue in the same fashion that we had experienced for a number of years, and they were excited, and they got on board, and it's been wonderful.
Nice.
Very supportive.
So, final question for John Babin. John's Director of Facilities Management for Ochsner Bayou Region down in Louisiana. One of the reasons I want to talk, and that you reached out, was just to talk about critical access hospitals. Is there anything that we didn't cover, or anything you think is important for somebody who's maybe thinking about critical access? Do they want to take there? Anything you think is anything we didn't touch on, or anything you think is beneficial for folks to know about directing in a critical access hospital?
Not so much, because I think maybe at one time there may have been a big separation, but now that we are part of a bigger system, that it's really not that evident here anymore. But thinking back to when we first became a critical access hospital, it actually was a sense of pride to us, because we were a community hospital, and we didn't have a really great reputation. So having that designation, and knowing that, hey, we would be here in really hard times regardless. And coming from the CEO at the time, who had pushed really hard to get that designation, it was celebrated, and it was quite an achievement for a small community. Yeah. And it's really been a blessing for us. And I don't know that it's a big old difference as far as the actual work that we do. So I wouldn't say that, but I said, if a person's here and they're not afraid to get their hands dirty, hey, go for it.
Well, I love that answer, because it showed, you touched on kind of the pride and the passion that people feel, people who like healthcare. That's what you feel, and that's part of you. As you said, you can't compete on salary, but you can certainly compete on mission and the pride you take of being the pillar of that community when Hurricane Ida hits. Yeah. So John,
one more thing. That was one of my goals when I took over, was to improve the perception of the maintenance guys, because we were kind of considered low class, and I'm sure there is still an element of that in places. But when you reach out to the clinical people in the hospital, you know, the other departments, and you let them know that, you know, you're willing to work with them and be supportive and you know, be in an open communication. I think that has been really positive and has served us well. And I think it'll continue to serve us well in the future. But we got uniforms, you know, we had the guys, you know, step up in communication. I actually instituted the AIDET program with my guys way prior to when Ochsner took over. So that was a big plus. And so that, you know, there's some things that we did that helped us. But that's it.
Okay, I know we got to go, but you brought up the AIDET program. Was that difficult for your facilities folks to use the AIDET program? Because again, it kind of stretches you outside of your comfort zone. How long was that an easy implementation, or did you have some people who were kind of fighting?
That was relatively easy for us because in the Cajun culture in South Louisiana, we're a very outspoken community, and again, we were you know, pretty much knew everyone that was in the hospital. So
Yeah.
you know, we treated people like family, and I think, you know, just having not so much a set script, but just a kind of a platform is, hey, you know, before you walk in a room, you do this. When you get in a room, you identify yourself. You know, just common courtesy. And
Sure.
so it was very well received from my guys, and I think that contributed to increasing our level of pride amongst ourselves. And I think that was so extremely important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you brought that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
So John Babin, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Glad to do it.
Thank you so much. So this is Peter Martin from the Healthcare Facilities Network. As always, thank you for your time, and we'll be back with a future episode. Take care. Thank you for watching this episode of the Healthcare Facilities Network.